5:00 on this fabulous Tuesday edition of Idaho Sports Talk. Appreciate everybody joining our YouTube audience. Shout out on our YouTube channel. Shout out to Blue Ice Vodka. Prater in the Ballgame. We have Leon Rice, Boise State head men's basketball coach, in the RowPaint.com studio right now. Leon, I texted Prater last night and I was like, there's no stinking way Leon's coming on our show. Like we were talking about having you a couple of days ago when we planned this. And I just got to say, Prater said it before off the air. I'll follow. Tip of the cap. Respect, man. Thanks for coming in and agreeing to do this interview after last night.
Well, we tell our guys that we're the same, whether we win or lose. We got to handle it the right way. And the right way is facing it. And you're not going to run and hide from it. You're not going to dodge it. We got some things we got to fix, and that's what this is about, and that's what this time of year is about. It was a surprise to me, I'll say that, and there's a lot we're going to learn from it. And I do have a great group of guys that will respond the right way. I'm confident of that, and we got some talented dudes. And this time of year, you're piecing stuff together. You're learning things about guys in front of the crowd that you don't see sometimes in practice. And, that's happening everywhere. You just hope, and pray that you're usually good enough to weather some bad things and still get the win and then learn.
Yeah.
And we unfortunately, we didn't do that last night.
And I think that's why you scheduled that team. That's why all coaches schedule those teams. You want to do all the learning stuff, but you still get the win. Let me ask you this real quick. Did Spencer Danielson text you today and say, hey, Leon, thanks for taking me off the hook?
Well, here's the irony, and this is the cool thing about working at Boise State is that we get so much. Our administrators are great. They're not micromanaging the coaches. They're helping us, and we're all helping each other. And I had reached out to Spencer a few days ago, and I was talking about what's worked for me. We call it the Valley of Death. Every team and in every sport is going to go through some Valley of Death. Now, some teams are so good that they can win some games in that valley, but they're going to go through them. I talked about how the Yukon Huskies that were in their first national championship a few years ago, they lost 6 straight league games. You don't think that was a Valley of Death? Wow. Well, they came out of it. They responded the right way. They learned from it. They got better. And man, that was one of the most dominant NCAA tournament runs of any team ever. And so, Spencer and I talked about that, and I talked about some of the things that have worked for me when going through that valley. And then, boy, I could have never guessed I'd be in the valley 3 days later or whatever. But that's sports, and that, a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes, and a lot of things you're always dealing with, and you don't get to pause and stop life and play games. You're just always dealing with stuff, and especially college kids and stuff that goes on. And but the bottom line is it's always about the right response, and it's always if we have the right response and this team goes where I think we can get them, and I know we can get them actually because I've seen the upside of them. This will be a thing that we call back on the rest of the year.
Well, and we'll get to that. And I want to dive deep into that because I think that's a big and important part of this conversation. And also a big important part of this conversation is we're not going to nitpick what happened in the game last night, but I want to know overall, when you went home last night and played this in your mind, when you woke up this morning, or maybe you watched the film last night, I don't know what your film habits are after a loss like that, but what happened last night? Let's just get after it. What happened last night, dude?
Well, I think the one of the strengths in that I saw early, you saw our Idaho exhibition, and we didn't have Dylan in that game, and it was a lot better. We had them at arm's length most of the game, and they're a good team. They beat Washington State last night.
Yeah.
And they hit some threes. We were up 14 with 2 minutes to go. I mean, that was a pretty good game. We had some really good moments against Washington. It was a big physical. It was one of the most physical games I've been part of, and I was really proud of our toughness and I'm like, well, if you have that kind of toughness, you're going to be fine. Well, what happened last night is when you play a non-1 team, they're just going to try to spread you out and try to make it as finesse as they can make it. And we let them play to their strengths, and we didn't play to our strengths. And our strengths are the physicality and the the toughness to attack and the toughness to defend. And they kind of got us away and they got to play their game, not our game. And I think that's probably the number one lesson, that no matter what happens, we have to be the toughest team. And that's kind of who we're going to be. And, I really thought, I was like, wow, we can hang our hat on that. But, we didn't, I don't know if we, human nature underestimated them or just didn't realize what it takes to show up that way every single day. That's hard. If you're going to be a tough team, there's no days off. You can't be like, well, tonight we won't be tough. No, you have to be that person if you're a gunslinger, well, there's going to be a quick draw wanting to challenge you all the time. And you better be able to be the quickest draw that night, every night.
And I thought that was the most disappointing thing last night. Not so much the result. It was because of what you just said. And we're used to seeing Leon Rice teams, whether the execution is always there or not, that's for other people to decide. But the toughness, the energy, the vibe, and I'm going to take it back to Spencer Danielson. And we were all taken aback by Boise State's football opener against South Florida. And the lack of effort, the lack of mentality, the lack of toughness. And then for the players to say that, for us to watch it for 3 hours, and for the players to say it afterwards was shocking. Last night, witnessing it and listening to your players talk afterwards, there's always something going on behind the scenes, but in terms of your players not engaging in typical tough play last night, or energy, or the lack of effort, that had to be disappointing to you more than anything else.
Right. Because, your opening game, you're not thinking, well, okay, I got to get them juiced up for the and I don't think it was that. I think it was when the game started to go not a great direction, and it never was out of hand. I mean, it was like there was not the appropriate response. There was a panic, and we never do that. It's just, okay, now we just got to be tougher and get more stops and things. I mean, because you're going to have and that's why I was so proud of our Washington game. We didn't make shots to beat them. We just kept sawing wood. We had the perfect response. We even talked about it as a team. Okay, what made us good? What made us good on this night against Washington? And our team recognized that we had a perfect response to every one of their runs. We just we were just emotionless, not emotionless, but we were just businesslike. We just kept sawing wood and kept hitting and kept guarding and kept rebounding.
And you're talking about the quote unquote secret scrimmage you had with Washington last week.
And they're a good team. And the funny thing is, I said to my staff before that scrimmage, and it rings true now, I'm like, you watch, the team that loses this game today is going to benefit so much more than the team that won.
Yeah.
And they won by 40 last night, and we did what we did. Wow. And so, it just shows you too that we talk about the mind being 4 as the body is to 1. I think it's 10 to 1. When you're right in your mind and what you have to bring, and you're approaching it the right way, all those kind of things, and not letting your ego or whatever you felt good about yourself, not letting that slip into that day. Man, it just controls. In this day and age, there's just so many good players and so many good, things that can happen by any team that, I told the story to our guys about, we played San Jose back in COVID and we beat them by 50. Remember that? We had a pretty mature team. I think we had a pretty dang good approach the next day. I felt good about it. Nobody was, we weren't taking them lightly after a 50-point win. You're thinking, but I'm sure human nature crept in a little bit. But I told them, these guys are Division I players, guys. They're going to come with pride. They're going to come, they're going to bounce back. They're not going to roll over like that. We ended up beating them by 1 the next day, and I swear we had a pretty good approach. So that's how fragile the mindset can be if you're not locked in, and I think we probably saw that a little bit, and I don't want to speak for football or anything, but we saw that a little bit Fresno had 2 tough games. That coach, all right, we're going to block, we're going to tackle, we're going to play football. And that's what they showed up to do. And that small edge can make a huge difference. And that's why your mind and your mindset and the way you approach every single game, the dog is going to win. And that's how our program has always been. And the cool thing for me is, I got a lot of texts from former players reminding me of that, like about this team, because they know they see some talent.
Did
They know that,
Loriaga text you?
yeah, I didn't get one from Jeff,
Okay,
but I had
he couldn't muster it. Okay.
some of my old dogs, quote unquote, Ryan Watkins. Yeah.
Okay.
And they know how I'm going to respond. They know how the team's, and it's not, they're not getting punished. They're not, it's learning and it's growing and it's respecting your opponent, respecting the game and respecting what makes us good. And, I think you'd have to say we didn't do a good enough job of that, in my mind.
Leon Rice with us. How are the returners meshing with the new guys? That's like a thing that all college basketball coaches have to deal with, because the returners, hey, we kind of rule the roost around here. This is our thing. And then the new guys come in and say, whoa, I'm a part of this thing too. How is that so far with this team, Leon? Is it where you need it to be?
Well, I think the key thing there is, in our program, you're a star in your role and your role changes. Well, we got a lot of returners. Their role is changing. JB was 6th man of the year. Now he's a dude,
Javen,
Yeah.
Oh,
Javen, yeah. Well, that role change, I'm not sure he completely adjusts, he's got to adjust to that. So all those guys are adjusting to their new role themselves. And so there is a lot, you have those veterans back, but there's moving parts with them too. And so, in these, and it always rears its ugly head when things are going bad, is you feel like you kind of have no idea what you're doing substitution wise sometimes, just because guys are, not performing what you thought they do. And then you think, what you're going to get out of this guy and you're not. And then so you're still learning on the fly with a lot of guys. And so, I made some mistakes with minutes on a few guys, and that adjusts as we go. And they understand that, hey, every day, and that's life. Every day is a tryout. You gotta earn your keep,
especially on your teams.
You
earn your minutes on a Leon team.
You got to, and and in the end, it's never about making shots. It's never about we're gonna hang our hats on our toughness, our grit, our togetherness, the way we play with joy and passion. But you can't play with joy and passion if you're not playing so hard that you put yourself out there. And when you do that, then the joy just comes out naturally. And I didn't see that. I saw a tension that we played with last night that we don't usually play with. And that, that's coaching. I got to fix that. I got to teach these guys how to do that. Like, no, we're always the hunter, whether we're the favorites like we were last night or whatever. But in every situation, we're always the hunter. Once you start to approach it as the hunted, you play on your heels a different way. And that's what it looked like.
I saw it last night. You were playing like that.
I'm assuming you practiced today, watched film, did meetings, everything that you normally do. You got another game on Saturday, so you got to quickly rebound. Please tell me that today's practice was intense and full of energy, and the guys showed a commitment that we didn't maybe see last night.
Well, what the NCAA rules, there's certain mandatory days off that you have to plan and take, and sometimes, like, one of the things I learned as a coach, the what I say after a game is almost zero. And
win or lose, good or bad,
win or lose. That's right. I mean, because too many mistakes are made in emotion, and you might call somebody out, and then you watch the film and you're like, man, that guy played 34 great minutes and one bad mistake. And so you just want to be fair, and you don't want to have all that emotion tied up to that moment. And so, we got out of there really quick. And, I told them, the guys, that's my fault. I didn't do a good enough job of making you understand what was in front of you. And then we go from there. But now my job and the promise I give these guys, and that's what I love about this team, my job is to hold them to this high standard that this program has and that you've seen. And I mean, I remember an old article, you even said it, the one thing that and that really made me proud, that our teams are always tough.
Yeah.
They always are tough. And I got to hold them to that standard. And that's why they came here. And so that didn't happen enough leading up to that game, obviously. And so that's my job, and that's what we'll do. It's not never a punishment, it's a learning experience, and it's a, then the joy comes. And then when you get to play that hard and that the great things happen when you focus on, we were talking about this today when Buzo, he was tied up on his shooting sometimes, and when we got him to let that go and focus on your rebound, focus on your defense, and then his shooting just comes. And that's what we got to get these guys to understand. I think, they're tied up in their offense, and it affected the way they defended and rebounded.
Leon Rice with us again, Prater in the Ball Game, KTIK the Ticket. What's the one, if you have one question in your head and you're going to get it answered when it happens, and you want to see what that answer to that question is there that question you have in your head right now about your team where maybe you don't know if it's going to turn left or turn right at this juncture, Leon, but you want to know what it is? Do you have something like that with this team?
Yeah. The thing that and this is probably why you have these once in a while, because the more I can make it player led, those teams have the best upside.
You always say that.
Yeah. And so I was seeing that. And so maybe that caused me to not back off, but okay, they've got this. Let them, well, they don't got this yet. So, but that's the question that, okay, can you guys be player led? Because sometimes when the leaders are not having great nights, are they still your leaders? And that's what we have to be able to hang our hat on too, is that it's your circumstances don't dictate the way you are as a leader. And, so, all right, well, I gotta, steer them in that direction a little bit more. That's apparent. But again, that goes back, that's coaching. And that's what you got to teach these guys to do, because this team, when they do that, they have a huge upside. And that's what I got to be able to make them do, that they solve that problem, so that they can't look to the coaches. When they look to themselves to solve those before they happen, that's when you got something special.
A lot of bracketology experts last night were talking about what's going to happen. And frankly, I don't care about metrics in November, but I do want to ask you this question. If you do what you're supposed to do, if you do what you want this basketball team to do, let's say it's the end of February or early March, how bad will this loss affect your program, if at all? I mean, it's going to impact it no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's going to affect us, first of all, in the fact how we learn from it. Because I guess, I always tell our guys, you don't get what you want in life, you get what you need. And apparently we needed that, because I don't know why, but we're going to learn. And the weird thing for me is this has never happened in my career, where it's a non-1.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is it doesn't affect your net. So does a quad 4 loss hurt you more than a non-1 loss? I don't know that answer. I know in the numbers, it probably does. A quad 4 loss hurts you more.
Yeah.
But if you're left out of the NCAA tournament for something that happened November 3rd, then we have something wrong with the system. And your margin of error is not that. It's not, football's different. You only play 11, 12 games, right? And in basketball, you play there's going to be a body of work that represents what we've done. So, if we do the good things that we can do, well, my thing is, we got to make up for it somewhere else. And you got to go get one.
Go to Viejas.
Maybe this game helps us down the road, get a game that we weren't going to get.
Logan, something.
You just never know. And so if that case, then it makes up for it. And then maybe it's a benefit, but I don't think, last year we lost a quad 4 game to an ACC school,
Boston College.
Yeah. And that hung over our head. I think it's, if you're on the bubble and they're trying to find a reason not to get you in, they can find that reason no matter what it is, Well,
but let's go.
But this is not going to be the sole reason we are out of the tournament. We've got all these opportunities, all these great things ahead, and we're not going to, you can't do anything about it now anyway. So we're going to respond the right way, and then it's going to be, we're going to turn it into the right thing.
I think Selection Sunday's in like 14 weeks. Let's talk about that when we get close to that. I got to ask you, and I know we're running out of time, but I have this written down, and I thought this was really kind of cool for you. Derek Marks is a part of the Hall of Fame class for Boise State for the class of 2026. Derek Marks is the first Leon Rice era player to go in to the Boise State Hall of Fame. One of my favorites, one of everybody's favorites, but congratulations. I don't know if you got to call him or how it went, but Leon,
the video last night was cool, man.
This is your guy, man. And you get one. I know you want a few more coming in eventually, but Leon, you got your first. You got a Hall of Famer, Derek Marks, former Mountain West Player of the Year.
Yeah, it was so special because he had just got done with the game. He was on the bus and I could barely see him. And they had lost by 2 points, but he had got 8 rebounds.
Where's he playing?
He's playing in Romania.
Okay.
And I'm like, Derek, turn your light on. I can't even see you. And he, and so I started telling him, and his grandpa had recently passed away, and his grandpa was such a big Boise State fan and really appreciated what we did with Derek and how he grew here. And, so neat to be able to call him and tell him, because you're right. He was our first recruiting class, and he changed not just him, but that whole first recruiting class changed this program. We brought in, I think, 7 freshmen, Mikey Thompson, all those guys, Drimick, all those guys.
Love that
They
class.
changed this direction of this program. They were the cornerstone of what we built here. And if it wasn't for them, I might not have survived here. But it's what they did and how they grew, and they were just awesome competitors. And so for me to get to make that call was a special, special moment.
Can't wait. 316 wins. Let's hope we get 317 coming up next.
Hey, you just saw it's pretty hard to win one game. I mean, it's
thank you so much for your time today.
Guys.
Prater on the Ball Game, KTIK, the ticket.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studio.